Sanibonani Bafundi. Let's look at one of the alterations that we do every single day of our lives, and that is just shortening a trouser for this chap. So the first thing you want to do is decide or observe what kind of trouser you have. You can see we've got a bit of a taper, meaning it's coming skinnier here to the bottom of the legs. And because of the taper, the hem is not going to be straight. Because you can see on a straight leg, if you fold that over, you're going to have a 90 degrees and 90 degrees. So if you join it to another folded over leg, it's just going to be straight there at the bottom. But if you have a taper, fold that in half, it's going to be 90 degrees here on the front of the leg. But if you join that to another, let's say this was a taper, you would start to see that angle there. So first thing, just observe that and know that whenever we're doing this kind of alteration or any alteration on a trouser, you really do not want to have the front and the back like this. You don't want to be, let me just move that. You don't want to be cutting it like this because you're going to end up with a very funny shape on the back portion. So you always want to be having it with the seams aligning. Now this one, as you see, the seams do not align. And this is because, the factories are just as they are. We can't judge them. So I'm going to leave it aligned here on the creases. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we're not going to shift it out like this to do our measurements. We're going to have it on the side. Even if you're doing a chino or a jean that doesn't have a crease, we're going to be measuring from the side like this. So let's see, this chap we want to reduce with 15.5 centimeters. So as you know, I like to have 5 centimeters seam allowance. So 15.5 minus 5.5 is going to give us 10.5 if I'm not drinking on the job. And you can always double check yourself. You see, there's my 15.5. So there's where my new hem is going to be. Now I'm lessing that with 5, or I want 5 centimeters as my turn up. And yeah, that is correct. That gives me 10.5. But you can always just take the number you want minus your turn up, in this case 5. In this case, I don't have to unpick anything. But let's say I was only shortening with 2 centimeters, then I would need to unpick this in order to get my full 5 centimeters. So that you're going to have to judge. Do we need to unpick? Do we not need to unpick? In this case, I can save some time by not unpicking. So as you saw, I measured there, front and back, 10.5, 10.5. And now, these rulers are really great. If you don't have this ruler, you can just use a regular straight ruler. But what I want to see with this is my center line roughly straight? And yeah, this is not the straightest thing you ever saw in your entire life, but that is roughly straight with the seam of the trousers. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to draw my line out there. And this is going to be where I shorten the hem. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put a pin there so that these layers do not end up shifting as I cut. And I'm just going to cut this out. As you know, I'm always going to cut about a quarter centimeter below my mark to ensure that that extra quarter centimeter long is not going to harm anyone, and many clients won't even notice it. But a quarter centimeter too short, you'll immediately notice. So I'm just going to do the same on this side. Now, something that I forgot to do that is always good practice is actually to check your legs. Check that both are the same length. Let me tell you, amazing things happen in the factories. So you can always just double check that. Okay. Usually before you cut, in this case, again, this is why I leave a 5 centimeter turn up, because it allows that little bit of error. If these trousers are now incorrect lengths, it will give us just a little bit of space so that we can correct them. So I am going to check that now. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. But what I'm going to do next is head over to the overlocker, and I'm just going to give this a quick overlock all the way around. All right, so here I am back from the overlocker. I don't really think it matters all that much, but I like to overlock with this side on the top, so this is the smooth side. That method where you iron this and then turn it up, I don't think it's bad if you don't have an overlocker, but I do feel it tends to create a bit of tension if you're doing a taper hem, because then you're kind of folding this and it gets a little bit tight when you fold it up again. So I'd rather do it like this. Also then, for the overlocker, I'm going to leave a little piece of overlocking because it makes it easier for me to tuck all of that in underneath. I don't have these small little pieces running around all over the show. So that's what's happening there. Now here we can start with matching our seams and matching our creases at the front and back. So I'm going to match my seam, make sure it's 5 centimeters on the dot. Now, because we have a taper, we're not going to have an exact match because here at the bottom it's smaller. So of course when we flip this up, it's going to be too small there on the sides. And we are just going to compensate for that. Just going to measure this out nicely. And just go all the way around. Matching up exactly the seams and the creases. I'm just going to start like that. Now once you've got that together, you can see here if we go from side seam to that crease on the center, see there's a little bit of excess happening there. So we're going to go from the side seam more or less in the middle and make sure from the side seam to this 1/4 it's smooth, there's no bubbles here. And we're going to just put a pin in there and do the same from this side seam, smooth it out, make sure it is 5 centimeters, put a pin in there. Then you'll see here it creates a bit of a bubble right by that crease if we take both sides and just squeeze them up. Now depending on how extreme is your taper, see this is actually quite a small little bubble, but it is there. And at the end of the day we want to lock that bubble on this crease. We don't want to try and distribute it. So obviously we can do the same on the other side. Now, the only time you're not going to have this is if you don't have a taper or if you've adjusted your side seams. So if we're doing a chino or a jean, something like that with a taper, we can try and straighten out the jeans if it's too much. Or, for a jean and a chino, we have less of a hem. So it's not so broad, so this mismatch is not such a drama. So you see there, I'm just moving the bubble to the center, and then from this side, moving it to the center. And you see there, we've trapped that bubble right there by the crease. Now, depending on how extreme that is, you can also, because remember here we cut, so there's no backstitch, and the overlocking is quite movable, so you can kind of manipulate it open like that. Sometimes the bubble is so small that just that little bit of manipulation will allow you to fit the hem perfectly. I'm not a huge fan of this because what I really like is that the method that we're doing locks that crease in place, so it actually helps the trouser to remain more fashion, more fabulous. But if you find it's such a slight crease and you don't really want to go through the drama of locking that bubble, you can always just do that. You can kind of just do a little bit of a tug and it will open up there, and that will, of course, give you a little bit of extra room for that bubble. So obviously you're going to pin all of that. Here, we're going to do this by hand. There are a couple different methods. I'll just show you the one that I really like. I'm going to start off with a knot. Now, usually I start on the side seam. Maybe I'll do that, just for funsies. Start here on the side seam. Yeah, starting on the side seam, and I'll again leave this tail long so that it's just easy to tuck it in underneath there. I don't have to be struggling with some small hairs just falling about. So over the hem, of course, I can be more, I can do like a stronger stitch. I can go all the way through, but of course making sure that I don't end up coming all the way out to the front of the pants. So you see here, I'm making sure that I get a nice big bite from this hem, but with my left hand making sure that it doesn't show here. Coming all the way over the overlocking. And I'm going to do that one more time. All right, so from here, how I do, I'm going to come straight up, very similar to how I do all the other handwork. Straight up, just going to grab the tiniest of bites, 2 threads max, and then come diagonal underneath. So this will mean that the exposed stitches are all flat. So when you put your foot in here, you have less chance of catching, because now if my stitch was diagonal like that and you put your foot in here, it would be easier to catch that stitch. But with a stitch vertical like that, it's tougher to catch something on there. So that's basically that. So we're just going to continue. Grabbing a tiny bite, going diagonal. Now, usually my work is a little bit closer to me. I'm just doing this now for the camera, and I'm working like flat to my body or across my body, and I'm just working easily right to left, right to left. You know, I'm doing this at a bit of an angle just so that you can catch it on the camera. But what you really don't want to do is tie out your hands by trying to like move it like this, or yeah, I don't know. Don't waste your time. Just keep everything flat. Keep your left hand underneath here so you can feel it under there. Grab a tiny bite, diagonal. So here there's nothing too exciting. You're just going to continue. And here you don't want to be able to get your pinky into any little spot there, because that means that you can get your toe caught in there, and then that is going to rip the hem loose. So I'm just going to continue that. Obviously, if you don't like to cry, then it's better to wax this thread. See, I've just got a knot happening there. You know, it's better to wax this thread before you use it. I was just brave today, so I decided that I haven't cried enough in a few days. So let me just do this without waxing my thread. And of course, you can see what I'm doing. I'm in the lock position, driving the needle with my index finger, and then not my index. So I'm driving the needle with the middle finger, and it's my index finger and my thumb that are catching the needle on the other side. So I'm going there. There's my stitch. My index finger and my thumb catch it. My pinky immediately grabs, and here my left hand, I'll just put some pressure on there. It helps to reduce the knots. So I'm just going to continue. So in here, at the end of the day, all we're wanting to do is lock that bubble exactly where we want. So I'm going to continue smoothing it all the way to the crease of this turn up. So nothing too exciting. Just stitching and stitching. Okay, so here we are at the crease. I'm going to grab this. So all I really want to do to lock it is I'm going to now push it from the next side back this way. See, there it is. Going to come up, come down. Then I'm just going to come back onto this side, up again, down again. Oh, Kosyan. Cry the tears. And back up again, so that really that crease has been in a way locked into that position. And again, the rule is not bigger than your pinky. You mustn't be able to squeeze a pinky in there, because then you can squeeze a toe in there, which means when you're getting dressed, you're going to catch that with your foot and you're going to rip your hem, and then you will cry. So that's really that. I'm just going to continue with the stitch all the way around, obviously making sure that it's all super neat. When I get to that piece of the overlocking, I'm just going to, see there it is, I'm just going to tuck that in as I get around there. And the only other thing I can say is that when I'm done with all of the stitching, I'm going to turn this right way around and overlock it from the and iron it from the inside, so that I don't iron directly here. I'm going to iron it from the inside and then lay it out on the crease, and then through a cloth iron that crease back. And that's basically that. Enjoy. So I just want to take another look at this, because camera angles and me, it's a whole story. So here I am, I'm getting to this portion where I want to stitch my bubble, and you can see I've just pinned the bubble there exactly where I want it. So I'm going to go diagonal, use my pinky. I'm going to keep going. You see, like, I can kind of squash it there. And I'll try and leave that pin for as long as I can. Obviously, it's going to get in the way. But, if I move that pin, everything's going to move. So, anyways. But yeah, I just wanted to redo this section. Okay, so you see here I'm flattening out. I'm moving all of that excess aside. I'm going to stitch to the middle of my crease on the hem. Let's see, there I am. Making sure nothing's showing over there except that tiny little spot of the needle. And now I can shift everything back. Just tighten that. Shift everything back and move the crease over to the right hand side. I'm going to stitch there and come down, catch the hem. And now I'm going to come back to the right hand side, grab the top, grab the bottom, and grab the top again. Just so that there's, like, in a way, a back stitch over there. Not that it is a back stitch, but you know what I mean. Just so that we really catch that bubble exactly where I want it. And then, just continue from there. I'm sure the rest of that is all fine. Let's make it fashion.